where Barack Obama is. So it's safe to say the tweet storms are definitely Donald Trump's thing, John.
Yes, despite the fact that he denied ever doing it the other day. Caitlin Collins at the White House, thanks so much. And it could be a tweet storm with consequences when you're dealing with the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Joining me now, CNN political commentators John Phillips and Bakari Sellers, and from the Daily Beast, politics reporter Betsy Woodruff. Betsy, for the last, 14 hours, the White House and Mitch McConnell's office have been putting out these statements. They've been really pushing that everything's okay. Man, are we getting along. But the president this morning doesn't seem to want to let bygones be bygones. He sends out these two missives. Millions of people can read them. One criticizing Mitch McConnell for how he's handling the debt ceiling, and now for Obamacare. What are we to make of it?
What we should make of this is that September is going to be a potential nightmare for Republicans on Capitol Hill. The president's relationship with congressional leadership has never been as fraught and as messy as it is right now. And look, in September, Congress has to pass a debt ceiling hike, and they have to pass a government funding bill. And as the president has made abundantly clear on Twitter this morning, he isn't necessarily going to be a team player on this. He's very comfortable criticizing members of his own party. In fact, over the last few days, we've seen him spend just as much, if not more time, singling out Republicans for criticism as Democrats. That's going to make it tough for him to get not only his agenda through, not only to get support to build a wall, which he sees as a ride or die issue, but also just to do the simple work of governing. And this means that congressional Republicans are going to have some major headaches in the coming weeks.
So, John Phillips, what does he get out of this? What does he think he's getting out of this other than feeling good?
Well, I think he's needling the Senate Majority Leader into doing what he wants to do. I don't think the arguments that he's made this week are necessarily mutually exclusive. John, you're a baseball fan along with me. You're a Red Sox fan, and unfortunately you're having a better season than we are. But if the Angels make the playoffs, watch out, because Donnie Moore isn't around to screw it up this year. But you know what happens when teams lose? Fans that go to all the games and watch everything on television and listen to it on the radio, they call into the post-game show and they rip the manager apart. They rip the general manager apart. They rip the players apart. And what do they do the next day? They're right back at the stadium to watch their favorite team play because they're all cheering for the same team. Yeah, Trump is needling them. Yeah, Trump is frustrated over any number of subjects, particularly health care. And on that, he's right. Mitch McConnell should have had the oomph to move a machine politician like Lisa Murkowski into voting for the health care bill. But he's airing the grievances, but they're still playing on the same team. And at the end of the day, I believe that they're going to be working forward at producing a tax plan, a health care plan, building the wall, all the things that they have in common.
The problem, though, with that metaphor is that attendance can go down at these games. Support can be lost, and the teams can still lose. So
how many sellouts do you guys have in a row?
but there's one of the issues that can go on here. Bakari Sellers, the Democrats looking on here, it seems to me that the Democrats could be the big winners here, because I don't know what incentive they have now to cooperate at all. They can just sit back and say, look, if the Republicans want to tear themselves apart here, why should we get involved?
Well, Democrats aren't participating in building a wall. I mean, we know that for a fact, and the main reason is because the president lied to the American people. I think he said that Mexico was going to build it close to 100,000 different times, and we know that not to be the case. Democrats would participate if we were having this back and forth about ideas. But what happened to the big infrastructure spending bill that was going to come out and put Americans to work? What happens to a bill not to replace Obamacare, but to work together to fix it? And comprehensive tax reform is something that Democrats want to work with not only Mitch McConnell, but Paul Ryan and the White House on. That is not what he's doing. He's sending out these third-grade tweets of himself eclipsing Barack Obama. He's chastising Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. And so Democrats ourselves, we have to continue to push forth the message, and it's very difficult when you don't control any branch of government, but you continuously have to sound the horn for the average American worker. And I think that's what you see a Nancy Pelosi doing. That's what you're starting to see a Chuck Schumer doing, and we just have to do it more, we have to do it better, and we have to do it louder.
And then, Betsy, there is the fundamental issue when the president says he's sending out a message of unity, which he did, I guess, on Monday and Wednesday. What we saw on Tuesday and what we're seeing on Thursday, it's just not a message of unity. Factually speaking, it's just not. It's not unifying when you attack anyone, let alone members of your own party. It's not unifying when you put up the tweet, of himself as I said before, the dark inanimate object obscuring the source of light, if you're taking the eclipse metaphor literally right there. Why does he, I suppose, what is the overall message it sends with these alternating thematic days?
Look, the president has long felt that he is under siege in the White House, that the media and Democrats and establishment Republicans have been colluding to try to take him down. We know that he feels very much like he is under attack, like the only people on his side are his base. So when we see him tweeting memes like that, the sort of goofy image of him eclipsing Barack Obama, that's indicative of how much he feels comfortable almost giving a bit of the middle finger to mainstream media figures and to moderate Republicans. He feels very comfortable flouting political norms because my understanding from numerous conversations is that he doesn't see anything to be gained from trying to conform with what we typically expect from our politicians. The result, of course, is that Trump on the teleprompter is dramatically different from him off the teleprompter, and that he says he's unifying and then can turn around the next morning and tweet that Mitch Mcconnell is doing a terrible job. The reality is there aren't a lot of people he trusts. There aren't a lot of people whose advice he takes, and that number seems to be shrinking every day. And as a result, we have this almost spastic roller coaster-esque back and forth between teleprompter Donald and non-teleprompter Donald, and that's not something that's going to make life easier whatsoever for congressional Republicans or for him as he tries to actually unify just his own party behind some of his most basic agenda items.
All right, guys, I really appreciate you being with me this morning to share in this morning. Appreciate it. All right, a new twist in the Russia investigation. Congressional investigators now say they found an email from a top Trump aide that shows, at the very least, some kind of an effort to connect the Trump campaign with Russian President Vladimir Putin last summer. CNN's Jessica Snyder live in Washington with our exclusive reporting on this. Jessica, what are you learning?
Well, John, this email detailed plans to potentially arrange a meeting with the Russian president, and the email was uncovered by congressional investigators as part of a batch of 20,000 documents turned over by the Trump campaign. Now, the email is from then campaign aide Rick Dearborn, and in it, he explains that an individual was seeking to connect top Trump campaign officials with Russian President Putin. Now, the individual who tried to set this up, that person's being identified only as being from WV. Now, one source says that's a reference to West Virginia. Now, in this email, Dearborn actually appeared skeptical of the request to set up a meeting with Putin, and it is unclear if Dearborn ever acted on the request. There's no evidence any action was taken. But what is notable is this email was sent in June 2016, around the same time of that Trump Tower meeting involving Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, and the Russians who had promised damaging information on Hillary Clinton. Now, it's unclear if this email in question had any connection to that meeting, but intelligence experts say that this fits a pattern of Russians trying to gather human intelligence from the campaign, and it's yet another attempt by them to try to gain an entry point into the campaign. Now, Rick Dearborn, who wrote that email and is now the president's deputy chief of staff, he didn't respond to multiple requests for comment. When it comes to the White House, they say that they wouldn't comment on any potentially leaked documents. But, John, this is yet another point of question for congressional investigators in the Russia probe. The question here being, did the campaign do anything with this request for Trump or Trump campaign aides to actually meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin? Of course, that will be a big point of question for those investigators as they move forward. John?
All right, Jessica Snyder for us in Washington. Jessica, thanks very much. We have new rules being made on the military transgender ban. Details on how these new rules could give General Mattis power to remove those already serving. Plus, the Republicans under pressure to deliver in September. Can they do so as long as they are under attack from the President of the United States? And a coalition of rabbis just nixing an annual tradition with the president. We will speak to one of them.
Aaron Burnett out front. Stories that matter.
You've got the money and you've got the passion, but how do you actually make a difference?
From the people making headlines.
Did you and Donald Trump talk about his Muslim plan?
For wherever news breaks, Aaron is there. One-on-one. In the field. And around the globe.
What makes you believe